Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 85, and they put here text number 6, although I was assigned to text number 5, but we'll read text number 6. Prāṇādīnāṁ viśva-sṛjāṁ śaktayo ya parasya pāratantryād vaisādṛṣyād dvayoś ceṣṭaiva ceṣṭatām prāṇādīnāṁ viśva-sṛjāṁ śaktayo ya parasya pāratantryād vaisādṛṣyād dvayoś ceṣṭaiva ceṣṭatām prāṇādīnāṁ viśva-sṛjāṁ śaktayo ya parasya pāratantryād vaisādṛṣyād dvayoś ceṣṭaiva ceṣṭatām prāṇa of the life air, ādīnām and so on, viśva of the universe, sṛjām the creative factors, śaktayaḥ potencies, yah which, parasya belonging to the Supreme, they, pāratantryāt because of being dependent, vaisādṛṣyāt because of being different, dvayoḥ of both, living and non-living manifestations in the material world. Ceṣṭā, the activity, eva, merely, ceṣṭatām, of those living entities, namely those entities, namely prāṇa and so on, that are active. Translation. Whatever potencies the life air and other elements of universal creation exhibit are actually all personal energies of the Supreme Lord, for both life and matter are subordinate to Him and dependent on Him, and also different from one another. Thus, everything active in the material world is set into motion by the Supreme Lord. We can repeat together. Whatever potencies the life air and other elements of universal creation exhibit are actually all personal energies of the Supreme Lord, for both life and matter are subordinate to Him and dependent on Him, and also different from one another. Thus, everything active in the material world is set into motion by the Supreme Lord. Purport. Prana is the vital air of life, a more subtle element than the ordinary air we can touch. And because prana is so subtle, finer than the tangible manifestations of creation, it is sometimes considered the ultimate source of everything. But even subtle energies such as prana depend for their functional capacity on the supremely subtle Paramatma. That is the idea Vasudeva expresses here by the word pāratantryād, because of dependence. Just as the velocity of an arrow is derived from the strength of the bowman who shoots it, so all subordinate energies depend on the power of the Supreme Lord. Furthermore, even when various subtle causes have been empowered with their capacity to act, they cannot act in concert without the Supreme Supersoul's coordinating direction. As Lord Brahma states in his description of creation in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Yadaite sangata bhava bhutendriya manoguna yad ayatana nirmane na shekur brahma vitama tada samhatya chanyonyam bhagavat shakti choditaha sad asatvam upadaya chobayam sajjurhyadha. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot manifest as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. Thus, when all these became assembled by the force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, Slokas 32 to 33. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adigaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this conversation occurred one day in Dwarka, actually. Krishna, Balaram, all of their family members, all of the Yadus, including Vasudeva Devaki, they had returned from Kurukshetra. In Kurukshetra, the inhabitants of Dwarka had the supreme opportunity to see the devotion of the Brijbasis and to hear from the sages who had come to take darshan of Sri Krishna and Balaram about the greatness of their two sons, who Vasudeva in these slokas addresses as Achyuta and Sankarshan. Now, Vasudeva, when he was in his previous birth, he was a Prajapati named Sutapa, and his wife was Prishni. And in the secondary creation, when Brahma created the Prajapatis to have him assist in the progenation of living entities in the universe, this particular universe, he instructed Sutapa to progenate, to fill up the universe with living entities. Now, they performed austerities for the equivalent of 12,000 celestial years. Now, in the heavenly planets, 12,000 celestial years is not that long, but by earthly calculation, it's millions and millions of years. So when they had attained perfection by performing very severe austerities, only eating leaves that fell from the trees and submitting themselves to heat, to rain, to cold, in this way, the Lord became pleased with their austerities, and he appeared before them and asked them what it was that they wanted, what benediction they wanted. And because they had been directly ordered by their father, Brahma, to progenate, and they only wanted the Supreme Lord or someone like the Supreme Lord as their son, they requested the Supreme Lord to become their son. So they were in the material world, although they were on the heavenly planets, and they requested the Lord to come down as their son. So because no one else compares or is like the Supreme Lord, and the Lord being pleased with the two Prajapatis, Sutapa and Prishni, he benedicted them that not only once will I come, but I will come 3 times as your son. First time he came as Prishni Garbha, because after they completed their austerities, they returned to their home, and they had the material desires of Gramya Dharma, that means engaging in sexual activities and producing a son. So that son's name was Prishni Garbha, and it was he who appeared to Dhruva Maharaj and benedicted him. Now, in the next millennium, Sutapa and Prishni, they took birth as Kashyapa and Aditi. And then the Supreme Lord appeared as a partial incarnation of Vishnu in the form of Jayanta, Upendra, Trivikram. He has so many names. A dwarf incarnation of the Lord who benedicted Bali Maharaj. Now we have the third incarnation of the Lord. The first 2 were partial Vishnu incarnations as Prishni Garbha and Upendra. Now the Lord himself is appearing. And in the 3rd chapter of the 10th canto, we heard about the Lord's appearance, not as an ordinary child. Although the Lord entered into the womb of Devaki, he did not take birth as an ordinary child would take birth. He appeared outside of the womb as a small Vishnu, holding a small conch, a small lotus, a small chakra, a small, a club. He had full hair. He was decorated with so many ornaments. And Devaki and Vasudeva, who were shackled in the prison house, they were astounded to see the Lord appear in his original form right there in the prison cell. And immediately, Vasudeva, although he was shackled, he wanted to perform so many acts of charity, just as any kshatriya would do when his child is born. Though he couldn't do it physically, he did it mentally, offering thousands of cows in charity to the Brahmins. Then he began offering prayers. Those prayers are very similar to the prayers that he's again offering here in Dwarka. Those prayers, because Vasudeva and Devaki, seeing Vishnu directly before them, they knew that this personality was the Supreme Lord. And the Lord specifically appeared in that form to convince them that he was not an ordinary child. He wanted them to know that I have appeared myself as the Supreme Lord, as your son. And then he gave them instructions that you should take me now to Goloka, to Gokula, and in my separation, you should always remember me as the Supreme Brahman and as your son. So for 11 years, they were separated from their son. And he left so quickly from the prison house that Srila Prabhupada states at that time that Mother Yasoda did not even have an opportunity to feed her breast milk to Krishna. So then Krishna, he went to Goloka, to Gokula, Gokula Dham, where his eternal mother and father were residing. His eternal mother and father, at the same time when Brahma executed the creation, there were 8 Vasus, and they were the topmost of the demigods. And amongst those Vasus, one was named Drona. So Drona's wife's name was Dara. And Drona and Dara, they were also ordered by Lord Brahma to create progeny. But their mood was very different. Their mood was not that the Lord come down and become their son. Their mood was that when the Lord chooses to appear here, that they may take part in his pastimes, because those beautiful childhood pastimes will be so attractive that the poor living entities who are entrapped in this material world will become liberated just by meditating on those transcendental childhood pastimes. So their mood of benediction, first of all, was not directed to the Supreme Lord. They prayed for this benediction from Lord Brahma himself, a devotee of the Lord, because Lord Brahma, he was trying to fulfill the order given to him by Lord Krishna. So they prayed to Lord Brahma that please give us this benediction, that we can take part in the Lord's childhood pastimes, which will liberate the entire universe just by remembering these pastimes. It's a very different mood from that of Devaki and Vasudeva. It's a selfless mood. So because they prayed to Lord Brahma, who is a devotee, Srila Prabhupada explains that when you get a benediction from a devotee, it's more powerful than a benediction from the Supreme Lord himself. So he benedicted them that yes, and therefore they came to Goloka Vrindavan before Krishna appeared, and they prepared for Krishna's appearance. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, Srila Prabhupada quotes him as saying that simultaneously, as Vishnu was manifesting in Mathura, in the prison cell, Sri Krishna, in his original form, appeared in Gokul as the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. Even from the beginning of the appearance of Sri Krishna in Gokul, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda had absolutely no interest or conception of his godhood, whereas specifically Sri Krishna instructed Vasudeva and Devaki that you should always meditate on me as the Supreme Brahman and as your son. So there was a difference in mentality towards their son, who was one, and a difference in rasa. One is with Gyan, knowing that Krishna is the original Supreme Brahman, and one is having absolutely no interest or concept of their little child as the Supreme Lord, and raising him with such love that they didn't even care when they saw the wonderful activities that Krishna was exhibiting in Gokula. They attested it to Narayan because they worshiped Narayan, that he was protecting their son, or some other type of mystic powers that they couldn't understand, as when Krishna showed the whole universe in his mouth. So they were completely under the spell of Yoga Maya, understanding that Krishna was their beloved son. So now, after Vasudeva and all the Yadus, Krishna and Balaram, returned to Dwarka, Vasudeva, having heard of the supreme position of his two sons, Achyuta and Shankarshan. As is the custom in Dharma, the sons come in the morning and they offer their respects to their parents. So Krishna and Balaram, they came before Vasudeva and Devaki one morning. They offered their respects. And when they rose, Vasudeva, remembering the words of the sages themselves, they were astounded, because when they came all the way to Kurukshetra, the sages didn't have to come for performing pious activities. They were coming for one reason. They were coming because they heard that Krishna and Balaram were going to be present in Kurukshetra, and because their meditations were on the lotus feet of Krishna, they wanted to see those lotus feet personally. So they came to Kurukshetra, and Krishna, playing the part of an ordinary human being, when he saw the sages headed by Narada Muni, Vyas, Parasya Muni, all the great sages of the whole universe, the four Kumaras all came. They all came just to see Krishna. What did Krishna do? He did not stand before them and accept their worship. He began to worship them, and he began to praise them, the sages. And the sages were astounded that here is the Supreme Lord, and he's praising us, the sages. So after Krishna had completed his presentation of the greatness of worshiping the sages and getting transcendental knowledge for them, they began to praise the Supreme Lord in front of them. And hearing these praises, Vasudeva was astounded that here are the greatest sages in the whole universe. They're praising my two sons. And then the sages begged that they took leave of Dhritarashtra and Yudhisthira Maharajas, and then they returned to their ashrams. So with these memories of the praises of the sages of Krishna and Balaram, they've now returned to Dwarka. And Vasudeva here is repeating some of those same realizations and the explanations of the greatness of Krishna and Balaram expounded by the sages. So in this particular sloka, whatever potencies the life, air, and other elements of universal creation exhibit are actually all personal energies of the Supreme Lord. Now, Srila Prabhupada, these words, of course, we're fortunate we get the English translation. If we were to try to understand the Sanskrit, it would be quite difficult for us. Prāṇādīnāṁ. Prāṇa means the life air. Adi, when it comes after a word, it means etc. So Adi in the beginning of a word means the first, like Adi Purush, the first living entity. And Adi at the end of a word means so forth, etc. So Prāṇa Adi, that means the life air and all of the different manifestations that we find in this material world, viśva-sṛjāṁ, that have created in this material world. So Srila Prabhupada, for our benefit, when describing what Vasudeva Prabhu is saying here, he gave a mundane example. He said, first of all, the spiritual world, It's free of past, present, and future. It emanates from the Supreme Lord through his Brahma Jyoti. But in one little corner of the spiritual world, a cloud appears, and that's called the Mahatattva. Now, the Mahatattva is composed of 16 elements. That's the 5 working senses, the 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, and the mind, 5 words, that's 15 and 16, the mind. So those elements are all mixed up in this Mahatattva. So Prabhupada, he gives this example that the Mahatattva is like a car factory. In the car factory, you have so many different allied elements. You have metals, you have plastic, you have rubber, so many different elements are there, and they're all in their different compartments. And as a car, when it's being constructed, goes through the assembly line, all of these elements are added to the car to make a final vehicle. And then that final vehicle, when it's complete as a car, it's not complete unless a driver goes into the car and drives the car away. So all of these 16 elements that are all conjunct within the Mahatattva, because the Supreme Lord is in his abode, when the Mahatattva is created, the Supreme Lord expands as Karnadakshayi Vishnu, and he lies down in the Karnadak, in the causal ocean, there. And from him, within the Mahatattva, all of the universes by his breathing are emanating. Unlimited number of universes, like so many mustard seeds, and a whole bag of mustard seeds. And these universes, they exist only within one breath, and then they're taken back into Mahavishnu. Now, Mahavishnu then, in his transcendental slumber, he expands a second time, and into each one of these tiny little universes, he lies down on Sheshanag as Garbha Odak Vishnu. Garbha means within the womb of the universe. Udak means the ocean. He's lying there on Sheshanag very comfortably. And from his navel, he sprouts a lotus. And on that lotus is born the first living entities, the second creator, secondary creator, Lord Brahma. Then he doesn't stop there. Then the Supreme Lord, he expands a third time as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. And as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, he enters into every single atom within each universe and into the heart of every single living entity that's going to be produced by Lord Brahma. So in that form, as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, the Supreme Lord becomes all-pervasive within the universe. So here, Vasudeva, he's saying that all of these elements within the universe are actually all personal energies of the Supreme Lord, for both life and matter are subordinate to him and dependent on him. So if we remember this course of creation, originally there's a Supreme Lord, he expands as Karnadakshayi Vishnu, Garbhodakshayi Vishnu, Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. Everything is emanating from the Supreme Lord. Both the material elements, the 16 elements in Mahatattva, and the living entities as well. They're all qualitative spiritual sparks, just like the Supreme Lord. Some are big, some are small. And according to the desires from previous births, they take birth in different bodies that are created by Lord Brahma to fulfill their desires. And Prabhupada explains that within each universe, Krishna creates these universes just like a father gives the children toys to play with. We all, as his children, we have desires. So our Father, He wants us to be happy, and He helps us fulfill those desires by giving us particular bodies according to our desires, according to our mental creations, so that we can carry out our desires within lifetime after lifetime. So this is all the material world, the Mahatattva and all the planets and all the lifetime after lifetime births and deaths that we take place. So that's the difference. Vasudeva and Devaki, they wanted the Lord to come down into the material world, to take birth because they had a desire to have Him as a son. They still had the material desires of grihastas to enjoy family life and to have children. And they wanted to Krishna conscientize their family life by having Krishna as their son. Now this is very nice. This is what grihasta life is for. And then Prabhupada goes on to explain that anyone who takes birth here and has such desires, there's no reason for birth control. There's the birth control in this material world means to only have Krishna conscious children and to pray for devotees and to raise those children as devotees. It's a very special thing if you can undergo 12,000 celestial years to have the Lord as your child. That's not possible for an ordinary living entity. But Vasudeva and Devaki, through their austerities, they were benedicted in that way. But for the ordinary living entities, such as ourselves, we can perform the austerities, particularly in this Kali Yuga, because such austerities are not possible for us. We don't live that long. But Lord Chaitanya has made it very convenient for us. In this age of Kali, we can perform the Sankirtan Yagya of chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and attain the same perfection because it's Kali Yuga. So therefore, we, in these series of slokas that Vasudeva is praising his sons, Krishna and Balaram, as the original supreme personalities of Godhead, and how fortunate he is to have them as his sons. And Devaki, she's listening, and she's remembering at this time, because Devaki and Vasudeva, it's not that only Vasudeva performed these austerities. His wife was right along with him. She performed the same austerities. And because of circumstances, very complicated circumstances, she had to see her first 6 sons murdered by her own brother. Now, why that happened, that also we go back to the very beginning of the creation, when Lord Brahma had created the first Prajapatis. One of them was Marichi, and Marichi had 6 sons, and those 6 sons, they noticed one day that Lord Brahma, he was following after one of his daughters and preparing to engage in improper activity with her. And those 6 sons of Marichi, although they were very elevated, they laughed at their grandfather. They derided him. And because of that offense, they were forced to take birth in a demoniac, as the sons of Hiranyakashipu. Now this is the link between why Krishna and Balaram had to go to Sutala Loka, because they were the sons of Hiranyakashipu. Now, as the sons of Hiranyakashipu, that was a curse. They had to take birth as demons. But as demons, they committed a further offense to their father Hiranyakashipu by, just as he had done, he had prayed the Lord Brahma to become immortal, had so many different obligations that Brahma had to fulfill. So they performed severe austerities as well. pray to Lord Brahma that this person cannot kill us, not in the day, not so many, just like their father. And when Hiranyakashipu heard that his sons had done that, he again cursed them. So now he cursed them, worse curse, that you will be killed by your own uncle, your own father. It was a curse that they would be killed because they didn't directly take shelter of their father. So they had to take birth a third time as the sons of Devaki, and they were killed by Kamsa, who was, what was the name of that demon? No, Kalanimi, who was one of the generals of, the uncle of these 6 boys. So here it was now, they had completed their 1, 2, 3 births, and now they were returned to their forms as there on Sutala Loka with Bali Maharaj and all of his big family members, because Bali was the son of the son of Prahlad Maharaj, who was the son of Hiranyakashipu. So it was all one huge dynasty of demons. So Krishna Balaram, when Devaki was hearing the wonderful prayers of Vasudeva, she remembered that Krishna Balaram, when we sent you to the Gurukula to serve Sandipani Muni, and when your learning was complete, and you asked Sandipani Muni and his wife, what Guru Dakshin can we give? You were able to return their son who had been dead for a long time. I have been suffering so much because my children were killed at the time of their birth. So now hearing the beautiful prayers of Vasudeva, Devaki, understanding the godhood of her 2 sons, then requested that, can you please bring back my 6 dead sons, as you did for your guru? And immediately, Krishna and Balaram went to Sutala Loka, and they were worshipped by Bali Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj immediately turned over those 6 sons. They were given appropriate bodies as little babies and brought back to Devaki. And then she was able to feed them. Krishna, at that time, according to what Srila Prabhupada says, at that time he drank the breast milk. Because of her motherly affection, her milk appeared, although children were all grown up, she had grandchildren. Usually you don't get milk at that time. But due to intense motherly affection, the milk came, and Krishna drank that milk, and then the 6 sons drank the milk, and then they were able to return to their original forms in the heavenly planets. So this particular chapter, when Vasudeva remembers the greatness of his sons, which is exactly in accordance with his particular rasa, and that is paternal love for Krishna and Balaram with full knowledge of who they are. But Krishna, after hearing these particular prayers by Vasudeva, what did he do? Because Vasudeva, at the end of the prayers, he says, please take away my memory that take away my understanding that you are my sons, so that I can understand you and love you as the Supreme Lord. So Krishna turns it just the opposite way, and he makes it so that he forgets that they're the Supreme Lord, so that Vasudeva can only see them as his sons. And at that time, Devaki then asked for her benediction. So the chapter in itself is very beautiful, with particular prayers, as Sukadeva Goswami so expertly does. He injects these prayers, and we've heard these prayers, we've heard these different descriptions of the universal elements and how the Lord enters and how everything is expanding from him. prayer after prayer, all the stutis, they say the same thing. And Sukadeva Goswami, he takes every opportunity to help us remember who Sri Krishna and who Sri Balaram actually are, so that we don't take them for granted. And then Prabhupada explains that the Supreme Lord, because everything emanates from him, all of the elements, the 5 material elements, all of the senses, and the mind, the Supreme Lord, he can appear in any of those elements. And therefore, when he chooses to appear as the Archa Vigraha, as wood, or as stone, or as metal, all of those elements are coming from him. So therefore, he can easily appear in the Archa Vigraha form for us to worship. And therefore, when we're coming in front of the deities, their lordships, the Archa Vigraha forms, we should remember that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere. He's present in every single atom. He's present in the hearts of every living entity, no matter what type of living entity it is, the Indra Gopa, or as Indra, it doesn't matter. The Lord is present there. And the Lord is also present in his Archa Vigraha forms. So we, in our present conditions, because we've all taken birth again and again in the material world, and we're all suffering birth, death, disease, and old age. And despite the fact that the scientists are trying their best to control birth, the Prabhupada has a lot to say about this birth control, because when Prabhupada was here, present, it was the 1970s, and there was a huge movement at that time here in India due to overpopulation, so-called overpopulation. Too many people. There are too many people in India. We have to stop all these people from being born. So at that time, the regime had a plan, and it was all over all of India. Hum do, hamare do, right? Everywhere. You couldn't get away from it. But they went beyond that. They started a sterilization quota. And they started dragging people in for forced sterilization. And they even, in every block, in every district, they had a quota of people that they had to sterilize so that they can control birth. And Prabhupada noted that here in Mathura, they were so outrageous that they even went to Radhakund, because in Radhakund they knew that even though they were so-called Babajis, they were still having babies. So they started to forcibly capture the Babajis and sterilize them. So Prabhupada, when he speaks about this, trying to control birth, trying to control death, he explained that when they did this, when they came and forcibly tried to control birth in this way, rather than the Vedic system of birth control. Now, we know what the Vedic system is. Here it is. Here's the birth control. 12,000 years, they performed austerity to have one son. So that's birth control. Now also, our birth control is we perform Garbhadan Sanskara, we raise the children as devotees, and this is the Grihastha system. That is genuine birth control. So Prabhupada, in conclusion, because all this was going on at this time, Prabhupada said that the reason that the regime and the reason all these people were assassinated is because they performed this great aparad in the holy dham of Vrindavan, of forcibly sterilizing people for their misconception of what birth control is. Birth control is perfectly described in the Shastras. You perform Garbhadan Sanskara, and you meditate, and don't become a father unless you can save that child and liberate him. So in this way, we're learning the different concepts. We're not on the level. Later, Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, earlier, he said that it sounds like Vasudeva and Devaki, They were ordinary living entities. They were born, they had material desires, they wanted to have a son, they wanted to have grihastha life. How is it that they attained perfection in spiritual life? Because Krishna later, he'll tell them that you meditate on me as the Supreme Brahman, and you see me as your sons, and you will attain the supreme perfection. The supreme perfection means to go back to Godhead. Whereas Nanda and Yashoda, they were already in the spiritual world, and when Krishna comes, as described in the Brahma Samhita, he brings all of his eternal associates with him here to the material world, and that's who he associates with here in Gokul, in Goloka, in Vrindavan. So that Drona and Dara, they merged into the eternal Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. This is explained by Prabhupada, although we'll never understand it. But they merged into them. And the eternal associates, they are eternally Nityasiddha. Whereas we, by following the regulative principles as sadhana bhaktas, and by the grace of the devotee, we can attain our sadhana siddhi, we can attain sadhana siddhi and our sarup siddhi by following the instructions of the spiritual master. Now, just before class, I just want to show all of you this. Madhava Prabhu, is Madhava here? Madhava, yes. He just came back from Uzbekistan. Now, who knows where Uzbekistan is on the map? I don't know. Good for you, right? So they haven't yet printed the Bhagavad-Gita, but they're printing one by one all of Srila Prabhupada's books in Uzbek. So this is how we can attain the same perfection. Because remember that Drona and Dara, they prayed to Lord Brahma. He's the head of our parampara. That please let us take part in the Lord's pastimes so that everyone in this material world can be perfected by remembering those pastimes. So those pastimes are still going on of the Supreme Lord. And in Kali Yuga, the Supreme Lord has appeared as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and our spiritual masters, following in the line in our parampara, they're trying to absorb everyone in Krishna's eternal pastimes. And that's done by the Sankirtan movement, by the printing of beautiful books in all the languages of the world. And so therefore, if we want the same perfection of sadhana siddhi and to attain the supreme perfection of life, and that means going back to Godhead, it doesn't mean asking the Lord to come down to this material world. No, it means getting out of the material world and going back to the spiritual world to engage in the eternal pastimes with the Supreme Lord. And then when he chooses to come here, we can all come here along with him. So we should meditate very diligently on the orders of our spiritual master, because that's an entire line coming from Lord Brahma. Get the blessings of the parampara through the orders of our spiritual master, and worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates by carrying out the Sankirtan movement in this age and go back to Godhead. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yes, Prabhu.
Two things. You said that once you do your sadhana bhakti and do things nicely, you go back to your eternal pastime. So do we also become Nityasiddha at that point? I mean, I know you said that there's Nityasiddhas that never fall down, but then all of a sudden by the process of sadhana bhakti, one awakens his true identity, which is eternal servant of Krishna, and also has an eternal relationship with Krishna. So that in one sense can be categorized like he became a Nityasiddha. And number two is, why for thousands and thousands of years of such austerity does Krishna get pleased by that? Why are the demigods pleased by such harsh austerities that you have to perform in order to please them and God?
Well, have you ever done Nirjala Ekadashi?
Many years ago.
Many years.
That was too hard.
Yeah, right. When you're performing austerities and you're limiting your eating and sleeping and all of the bodily functions, what do you do with your senses then? You start remembering Krishna and praying to Krishna that when will this be over? And you're
in dry leaves.
Well, that's why we're still in the material world, because but Krishna's made it easy. All you have to do is go sit in kirtan, chant Hare Krishna. You don't have to eat dry leaves. That's if you were born then. You're born now, so just go sit in kirtan and you get the same result. Now, another example that Prabhupada gave is that Uddhava is in the spiritual world. He's a Nitya Siddha. But when these pastimes were taking place, Uddhava, one of his portions, took birth as a Vasu. And that, it's not anything we can read it, and maybe some lifetime. We can read it and we repeat it, but it doesn't mean that we understand it. So a portion of Uddhava took birth so that he could take part in the earthly pastimes here. So even the devotees in the spiritual world, they want to come and take part when Krishna appears here to manifest his pastimes.
So are they all taking part now?
We hope so. We don't know who's amongst us.
We're here to take part.
We're all part of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan army. Where we came from, only Krishna knows.
We'll talk about the other part later.
Hare Krishna. I have two questions, Mataji. First thing is, I'm in the Krishna consciousness for doing a couple of years, but still gratefulness, thankfulness is not developing about the Lord, on the Lord. Still, I'm not thankful to Him. Still, there are a lot of bad things are going on in the mind. And the second question is, how to take validation from devotees?
Okay.
I'm talking to myself.
All right.
The first question is related to my.
Okay. Are you following the 4 regulative principles?
Yes.
All 4 of them?
Yes, yes.
Congratulations, that's wonderful.
But I'm struggling very much.
You're struggling. Well, do you live in the association of devotees?
I'm trying.
You're trying. Does that mean you live in a temple?
No, I'm from Amritsar, in a grihastha, doing a grihastha life.
Oh, you're in Grihastha life.
Yeah.
Do you?
I'm doing association with devotee on a regular basis.
Which temple do you live near?
ISKCON Amritsar.
Amritsar. Amritsar, yes. So in your home, do you have a small temple?
Yes.
And who are you worshipping in that temple?
Mataji God Sundar.
Oh, wonderful. Very nice. Are you offering all of your foodstuffs?
I'm offering.
All of the food that you eat in the temple?
Not regularly.
Okay. So that has something to work on. Because whatever you eat, whoever cooks that food, you get the consciousness of that person. And when you are what you eat. So if you want to build your spiritual body and become blissful, Satchidananda Vigraha, then you have to concentrate on purifying what you eat. If your wife is cooperative with you, then have her cook purely vegetarian, no onion, no garlic, things like that. And it's so easy. You just put it on a plate, you put it before their lords, you put a little tulsi leaf. Do you have tulsi in your house?
Yes.
Wonderful. Just have her take a little piece of tulsi, put it on there, offer it to them first, and then it becomes spiritualized, and that's how you'll build your spiritual body. Small thing. It seems very simple, but that is how your consciousness will get purified, by eating only Krishna prasada. So let's start there. Ask your wife to cooperate in that way. And next time you come, we can go on to the next process, okay?
Hare
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any more questions? All right. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.